You know, for some reason, the entire new region only has 49 of these flowers, with some of them lies on an island in the corner that's basically inaccessible without competing quests. That's not even mentioning her support Iansan needs these freaking ores that can't be broken down with just normal characters. A great marketing strategy, I guess. But nevertheless, after going through all that crap, I hereby welcome you to today's video of free-to-play Varesa showcase. So as usual, let's start with my build first. C0 level 90 Varesa with R5 with Seed. Unfortunately, even though I had this weapon, this is the only viable free-to-play weapon for her, so you have no choice but to bear with his RNG and downtime. As for the artifact, personally I think there's no reason to farm the new set, as Obsidian Codex works just fine for her from my experience. But if you happen to have the Lost player, then once again you have no choice but to farm the new set, as there's just too much credit with this weapon. Talent wise, all of her talents are pretty useful, so upgrade them all as best as you can, especially her normal attack. That's where most of her damage comes from. So now without further ado, let's see some action. First of all, let's start with her solo performance. Since Varesa is on downtime for most of the time, this is her damage during that time period, in which in my opinion, is already above the average among all DPS, around the level of C0 Iansan with White Tassel, if I say so myself. So pretty good news for her indeed. Now once you activate the Varesa's buff, her damage becomes much more powerful than before, but remember that it only lasts for 10 seconds with 20 seconds cooldown, along with 33% chance you get almost nothing with its Elemental Mastery buff. By the way, just for your information, her signature weapon is even stronger than R5 Varesa on its peak performance, and it doesn't have a downtime at all. So if you're truly going to main Varesa and Varesa is all you have, then I strongly suggest you to pull her signature. Well anyway, on the other hand, Iansan is supposed to be the best support for Varesa, so let's check out her value compared to our Bennett. Now this is quite interesting. C0 Iansan with Scroll of Hero is actually as strong as C6 Bennett with Aquila Favonia, meaning that unless you are bringing other Nalan supports with Scroll of Hero like Silonin, Iansan is always the better choice compared to Bennett. Well anyway, now you have seen her solo capability, let's get into some team showcase. The first one is obviously going to be her most free-to-play team, which could potentially be her absolute best team as well, depending on whether you have C6 Chevreuse and C6 Iansan or not. Obviously that's almost impossible if you are only pulling C0 Varesa. So if you come across any showcases that feature C0 Varesa with C6 Chevreuse and Iansan, straight out ignore them all, as it's not applicable for majority of us. Instead, this footage here is the best you could do. Well, in any case, with this setup of mine, I would say she's still a quite decent DPS, as not only her damage is decent enough, but also her AoE is one of the best in the game, all with the fact she's very easy to play as well. Besides, unlike all other Nathan DPS, there's no hard restrictions to her team build, so I guess if you're new to this game, this Bennett is one of the best for you to pull. Now as for the upgrade, you can always replace Traveler with our Pyro Archon, which is just better in every single way. With 3 Nalan characters in the team, you won't have any trouble with her energy at all, even with C0 Mawika, so feel free to bring her if she's not carrying your other teams. On the other hand, if you unfortunately didn't get any copy of Iansan, you can instead go for the good old reliable Bennett Xianyun combo, in which from my experience is even better than Iansan, not just because of the damage but also is a lot more consistent across the board, as you still have Xianyun to deal damage in case you roll the EM buff. But of course, you have to bear with the circle impact, which is a problem going against groups of clouds. That's the thing I hate about the overload relation, but nevertheless it's still a very good team. Now aside from the overload with Chevreuse, another obvious team choice is definitely Xianyun with Fulina, in which, from my experience, is the best team against single target boss. Not only Xianyun can buff our Varesa's plunge attack, but also she can double shield both Hydro and Electro, shielding both resistance at once. So if your Chevreuse and Iansan is not at C6, This is basically the strongest team you could go for, which it should be considering is far more expensive than the pure 4-star teams. The only downside is that it gets weaker against more than one enemy, but with how large her AoE is, it's not that big of a problem for Varesa. So if you already have this team available, no need to think twice, just go for it. But if you don't already have Xianyun, I think you should check out the rest of the team first before spending money. Now finally it's time for some traditional electro teams, namely the infamous Hyperbloom teams with Dendro. Compared to all the previous teams, the best part of the Hyperbloom is that with this EM buff is finally not entirely worthless, as it will all be translated into the seed damage. So in other words, it's much more consistent. But that's not all. You can make it even more consistent by switching Iansan to Nahida to improve your Hyperbloom, which really isn't a bad idea at all. It's a great way to standardize her damage between different Wizards buffs. So if you absolutely hate Wizards RNG just like me, you should definitely go for this team. It's totally on par with all her other team choices, if not actually better, even though she doesn't scale of Elemental Mastery. Now aside from the Hyperbloom, originally I thought pure Quicken is bad with Varesa since she doesn't do normal attack, but to my actual surprise, it's actually viable. Unlike all other Electro main DPS, Varesa has complete control over her own field rotation, meaning that she can easily switch to other characters to reapply the buffs. In other words, Varesa is kinda like an AoE version of Yamiko for this team. So really, don't be shy to try this team, you'll be surprised of how well it plays out. And last, no DPS can really escape the Hypercarry team, but for Varesa, I don't think it's a good idea at all. This team is the complete opposite of consistency, as rolling EM buff is basically death sentence to your damage. Just look at this footage, where she can't even kill this boss in one rotation. So I guess this could be a very decent team if you have Signature or the Lost player, but with Wizard, yeah, I'll pass. Well then, looks like this showcase is a bit shorter than usual, as Varesa is quite a simple character to play without much in-depth mechanic. As for whether she's worth pulling, I would say she's an absolute great choice for newcomers, as all her best 4-star teammates are in her banner together. Honestly, it's hard to find a better banner than this, as most characters nowadays are heavily restricted in team choices, most notably Marika, who can't even work properly without Nanan teammates. But for older players who might already own other Electro DPS like Coland, you should probably skip her as she doesn't offer anything new compared to the others. Not only her attack combo is similar to the others, but also all of the teams can be played with other Electro DPS. But still, I can't really argue she's quite fun to play, even though I already have Sino and Coland. As for the meta's perspective, well, I don't think she is meta at all, as I haven't seen anything that's totally broken and unique on her yet. Well, that's basically everything to this video. Thanks for watching and I'll be seeing you in the next one.